It's time for another musical interlude. Let's get started. Talking with people with music in their genes, their blood, and in their soul. You are watching Musical Interlude.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of Musical Interlude. I am your host, Casey Bell, and today's guest is Isabel Marcheselli. Let's get started. What is your earliest memory of you finding your passion for music?
Well, Casey, thanks for this question. My earliest memory, believe it or not, goes as far back, uh, I'm a little embarrassed to say, as preschool. See, I remember really singing with a teacher who sang on the guitar, and I remember singing with gusto. It's my earliest memory and my earliest musical memory. Um, And okay, so evolving from that, I loved to sing a lot growing up. And I was given a keyboard as a kid to play, and my first instinct was to write songs and to try to come up with primitive notation. Uh, and that's okay. So then, but even then, I wasn't entirely sure I loved music or anything. I was going to give my life to it. But when I served as a backup singer after college, Casey, uh, I remember doing the shows at night in Brooklyn in these really gorgeous venues, these very cool venues, at least. Okay, I remember them as gorgeous, but that's because they were very colorful. Anyway, just feeling so alive and of service and appreciated by the listeners that something was going on. It felt very electric to play, to sing as a backup singer um, for a band that was a very veteran rock band. And I can't compare it to anything else. I just knew that I wanted whatever it was I was doing now. I wanted to do it like some variation of it, like forever.
Cool. So, what encouraged you to follow your passion? Because many people talk about what they want to do, what they want to be, but fear stops them. So, despite of any fears you had, what encouraged you to do it anyways?
Well, Casey, I will be frank. The journey is a journey of faith, right? We walk by faith, not by sight. A lot of variables sort of stacked up against an artist today. The whole pay to play mentality, and just the breakdown of music, such that it's very hard to connect these days with people. They're kind of everywhere. Maybe they always were, but it seems more so now. I have found it very important to have a spiritual life. In my case, a life of prayer to my higher power. And I have found that affirmational. And I found that, God has affirmed with continual signs along this musical road that to go on, to keep on, and to stay in tune with my heart, because it's kind of like tuning an instrument. You can kind of get out of tune. And it happens with all this societal chatter and this whole kind of mentality like what's that show these uh these shows, these judged musical shows, I never watched
Oh,
them.
okay.
These rock star shows where you've got talent type shows that um yeah, I think that it just becomes a kind of a noise distortion in the life of an artist. And I was just having this conversation today with my guitarist that it's important to not just, to just kind of get past the societal chatter and not just doing it all for business and pay and all that stuff, but to really stay true to art, have a vision, get excited, and just kind of maybe work with the flow, where the river's going, and against instead of against it. Yeah.
So when you made your first record years ago, what were some lessons you learned about a record? Because when you play one at home, you don't know all of the backstory of, going into the studio, rehearsals, writing, blah, 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 blah. So what were some of the
Yes.
things you learned about an album that you didn't know prior to starting recording?
Oh, that question. I learned a lot. The list is crazy long, Casey. I will say this. Well, uh, probably I felt that some of the wisdom I felt I did. My band had already been playing for some time out, a good couple of years, and I'm almost thinking we should have cut the album kind of sooner, because that way we could have toured more and taken more advantage after the cutting of the album. But something was going on with my life whereby shortly after the album was recorded and released and everything, no, I should say released. It took like a year, the making of that album. I found myself really spent, a bit drained, and I almost didn't have it in me to like promote it because I had divested so much of my energy into just the making of it and the journey there, that by the time I released it, I didn't have much left. So we had this big CD release party, and of course I did other, auxiliary shows to support my album, and it, sold copies and got great responses. I just was losing steam, and life was starting to happen. I went through this breakup, and it just got like hairy, like the promoting of it. So yeah, that would be something I would do. Maybe I would just cut an album sooner, when inspiration hits, as soon as things kind of fall together. Also, I probably would have researched who I'm working with a little more, because I found myself doing a very sparse recording, and that was okay. It was sort of okay for me and my bandmates. Now I'm realizing I could have done more, and I might have even separated out the people who master it from the people who mix it, because I think that they heard it so many times that I don't know. Like, I think maybe the mastering could have been upped several notches. In any case, one of my future plans is to release tracks from the first album, re-release them, and as remastered tracks for today's speakers and radios.
I know that only because my uncle has a group, and someone told him that he had the person who mixed it was the person who mastered it, and they told him never let the person who makes it master it, get someone else to master it. So I was like, well, that's good advice for me if I ever decide to do that. But I guess that's information you don't know, and I'm sure the person who mixes it is not going to give you that advice. So it's
They're confident, and that confidence goes a long way. It's great. Sometimes we just got to kind of discern beyond that. And you know what? Honestly, I sort of had been told that even going into the project. I found myself a little cynical. I said, well, how really disconnected from the original, from the mixing and the master? How disconnected the process can that be? And I thought it must be connected. But now I'm realizing a fresh pair of ears is an excellent idea. Yeah.
Cool. So from the last album was about 10 plus years ago, and you're releasing a new one this year. What happened that caused you to hold your recording or stop or pause your recording?
Certainly, Casey. I may have just kind of hinted a little bit. I was writing a storm of songs. I was very inspired during the whole, 3 years that my band toured around, especially focusing on New York City. Went to a lot of venues that welcomed us with open arms, and for which I'm forever grateful. It was just a real whirlwind, and I went through this breakup. It kind of shook me up, and I found my writing was slowing down. There was also this kind of purging that was going on. I don't know. We all have seasons of life. Do you find that? like just these seasons of life where I had just finished, I think, destroying some 100 journals of my writing because I wrote a lot. And I also wrote poetry in the years leading up to my songwriting. And I joked that I used to keep these in a safe, and they were becoming a fire hazard, though, all the same. And my roommates would be like, you shouldn't be carrying all that around. Like, because I would move from room, to apartment and city, living this kind of migratory life. And right, so there was this purging going on, and there was this interchange going on. And not terribly long after, I was on the path to getting married and moving to another state. So by that time, I found myself in Massachusetts, also a very educated and cool state, nevertheless with its own vibe, Casey, and a very different audience than what I was used to in New York City. And I found that I had to sort of reinvent myself a bit to, keep the train going, which thank God I have been giving a pretty productive music career. There was just a lot of work, musical work to be had and done here. Just shoes to step into and roles to take on and offers made and so on. But I felt the deep calling to come back to my singer-songwriter heart, my singer-songwriter place, that I want to say roots. But I was classically trained, so in all fairness, sometimes I have trouble deciding where were my real roots. But I really felt coming into my own when I came out with my own original material. So there's no feeling quite like that. So then there was a slowdown, right? Meaning I was busy doing musical work, just other musical work. But I knew I was going to circle back. That was always my intention. So that's why I couldn't be more excited. It took a little longer than I might have liked. Nevertheless, I have found my bandmates to be most enthusiastic and supportive throughout this whole journey. And that has gone a long way in strengthening my convictions to do this album.
So speaking of this album, you received a few grants to produce this album. What gave you the idea to do that? And you can name those sponsors if you like. And what did it give you the ability to do as far as producing this album?
Yes, thank you. Well, I probably ought to tweakingly clarify that it was assistance to musicians who were impacted by the pandemic. And some of it was more slated for a purpose. Like I have one grant that has a classical nature to it that will lead up to a sort of a different genre, a classical recital, piano recital, Chopin repertoire in the future. That grant was by the Music Teachers National Association in the preparation for that recital. Then there were other grants that were more freeform, and where they did not, like they put restrictions. They said, use the funds as you need. And so different needs have been pressing. Of course, I was impacted like a lot of other musicians. Gigs that I had were not there any longer. But things are picking up again, wonderfully so. And I never stopped working on my music. Things never came to a complete halt for me. I was always just working underground. My wheels were turning. And so, I have to give thanks to colleagues. And I have found it helpful, me personally, to be connected to colleagues through networks, through associations, forums, conferences. I am that person who will follow up. There's a little bit of a pen pal writer in me. And I actually am not shy to just write and say hi to people that I don't know. And, I found such wonderful people on the way, on the journey there. So, and they were bringing to my attention these grants. And I said, I don't know that I should really be ignoring this in my inbox. I think I'm going to follow up. And I did it with some, well, just nerves, just like anybody else. But lo and behold, I found a lot of support. And in earlier years of work, I had done some measure of fundraising, so I was no total stranger to grants. But in fact, I actually never have had so many grants for myself, my own purposes. I've raised grants for other causes, raised funds for other causes, what I want to say. So yeah, that's where the idea came from, and that's how I heard about it.
Would you say anything you can give advice to someone out there who says they don't have money to follow their passion? Any tips you could give on how to receive those grants? Because yes, when it comes to sponsorship and grants, of course, you can be rejected. But was there
Yeah.
anything you found that caused you to receive those grants?
Well, the training that I did receive in applying for grants is to really follow directions. It's simple, but powerful. Not to provide information too much other than what they're asking for. If they're not asking for a press kit, do not go layering things with the press kit. Follow the information. And also, today's singer-songwriter, you can find yourself being your own independent operation. So that's been my boat. And I I just try my best to put out a very good public outreach online of everything I stand for, all the work that I do, and I try to be pretty transparent. So I people want to know something about me, bam, they could find it. So it's pretty straightforward. Every once in a while, I just, I do need to, it's like anything else. You got to maintain it. And especially in today's technological era, where it's just like a lot everywhere. So I don't want to overwhelm people. So I kind of try to be on top of these things, and I recruit my team to help me, consultants, with what to leave in and what to leave out. So at times, not to just have really old stuff there. Keep things very, as clean and fresh, and as reasonable as possible, so as to, I guess, introduce myself to people who really have never met me before or know my band, Isabel and the Whispers.
I like that. So now that probably by June, definitely by July, many things will be reopening. A lot of states are, removing the masks requirement.
Yes.
Are you planning for concerts, or do you have any scheduled, or are you still waiting for maybe next year?
Well, yeah, this is powerful, a powerful question. And I'm going to tell you, I'm feeling it out there with the rest of them. And not to sound overly simplistic, there were times with my band when we wanted a show, we got it. We booked it, we had it, and it was really straightforward. We could bring our albums, and we sold our albums, and it was just great. Times are a little more murky, a little more nebulous. It's a little more clear, ambiguous what to do. I mean, people are not buying CDs like before. What do you hand them? An MP3 card? I mean, so you're losing that income that you would have had at a show. And venues are really on their own guard for their own best interest, and rightly so. It's just that, probably the filter is kind of like, you can filter spam, but like, you gotta you gotta leave some margin for good music. If you got your filter on high, and you're filtering out good music that would have otherwise uplifted your venue, I don't know, I think that could hurt a venue. But nevertheless, venues may be playing it very, very safe. Just trying to book these acts instead of taking chances on new music. Just book these acts that just have this kind of particular track record they want. But I think in the process, a lot of things, maybe falling through the cracks is another story. In terms of my band, I will make every effort to do live shows at the best venues that are most supportive of what we're doing. And I'm willing to travel. I have had my bandmates tell me they're willing to travel with me. So we're hopeful. We can't tell you, okay, we've got so-and-so venues lined up because we're just coming out of this crazy pandemic, which was like hell for like the music industry and everyone. But I just want to leave on a hopeful note that my determination is as strong as ever to bring good music one way or another with whoever of my bandmates is available in a different sound and a fresh message, different message to listeners. Yeah, so I want to do shows. I want to break into the Boston area, potentially Western Massachusetts. We'll see what can be booked here. Definitely want to book shows in New York. I want to branch out to Connecticut. So I want this promotional tour may last anywhere from 1 to 2 years. Yeah.
Cool. So my last question for you is, during your long history of being in the music industry, was there ever a musician that inspired you so much that you wanted to meet them or maybe collaborate with them, whether they're dead or alive? Known or unknown, singer, songwriter, or a producer, or an engineer, or a musician, anyone in the music business, was there anyone who really inspired you that you'd like to meet for conversation or meet for collaboration?
Yeah, Quincy Jones. I would love to meet Quincy Jones, and I would love to get his thoughts on production and what he would do for my songs. Although even though honestly, probably I really don't have that kind of sound like for the artist, like he does. But I have more of a singer-songwriter. He did really true blue R&B, but I just think he did powerful work. And I would love to have coffee with him sometime. Oh gosh, yes, that'd be a dream come true. And also, I want to say, I know this there's like a double-sided answer to this, and it's more maybe sounds more mundane, but I actually really love collaborating with my bandmates. I esteem them, I cherish them, I honor them, and a singer-songwriter with strong bandmates is like a hunter with a good bow and arrow. And for me, I really and truly delight in them. And you asked me, I would love to just spend afternoons conversing musically with my drummer. So because he has a lot to say, and that's what music is for us, kind of musical conversation to which other listeners are privy. So I hope that answers your question. Thank you so very much, Casey, for having me here today on Musical Interlude. I love talking about music, and we're all community here, all the more so brought together in this suffering caused by the pandemic. And I just want to express my gratitude to anybody listening today, to us, and check out my website, isabelmarcheselli.com. I trust there'll be links attached somewhere. And my song, Wander, which is right now a work in progress, what you're hearing, but that's slated to be on the future album, likely an EP. And just please follow me all around. Feel free to, I guess, do some friendly stalking via my Linktree links through all these other places you can find me. So thank you. Thank you so much.
And baby, can you see my tears are not of grief, but of felicity. Josephina, will you
you so much for joining me on another episode of Musical Interlude. I want to thank our guest, Isabel Marcheselli, and you, the audience. Thank you so much for stopping by to view. Have a great day. Have a great week.